The Vexa were the greatest minds in the galaxy. They had not always been that way. A long time ago, they had been like everyone else. Slow, uncertain, afraid. Then they built the machines. The supercomputers. Huge silent things that filled whole planets. The machines could simulate anything. Every battle. Every economy. Every future. The Vexa fed them data, and the machines gave them answers. The answers were never wrong. With the machines, the Vexa conquered 1,000 worlds. They knew what their enemies would do before they did it. They knew where to strike, when to retreat, how to win. No one could surprise them. No one could defeat them. The Vexa were perfect. The machines were perfect. The galaxy was theirs. When they discovered humans, the Vexa were not worried. Humans were new. Humans were young. Humans were small. Their technology was simple. Their weapons were weak. Their bodies were soft. The Vexa ran their standard simulations. Trillions of them. Every possible outcome. Every possible future. The results were always the same. Humans would lose. The simulations showed humans trying to fight. They would be crushed. The simulations showed humans trying to hide. They would be found. The simulations showed humans trying to run. They would be caught. There was no scenario where humans won. Not one. The Vexa prepared for an easy victory. They sent their fleet toward Earth. They expected no resistance. They expected surrender. They expected the same old story. Conquest. Submission. Silence. But the Vexa made a mistake. A small mistake. A mistake that would change everything. They forgot to simulate something they had never seen before. Something that did not fit into their machines. Something that could not be calculated. Human creativity. The Vexa fleet arrived at Earth on a Tuesday. The sky filled with dark ships. The ground shook. The humans looked up and saw their doom. The Vexa expected panic. The simulations showed panic. Fear. Chaos. Surrender. The humans did not panic. They did something the simulations did not predict. They sent a message. Not a threat. Not a plea. A poem. The poem was short. Simple. Human. It spoke of hope in the face of darkness. Of courage in the face of fear. Of a small blue planet that would not bow. The Vexa read the poem. They did not understand it. Poems were not weapons. Poems could not stop a fleet. Poems were just words. But the poem spread. Humans shared it with each other. They painted it on walls. They whispered it in the streets. They sang it as a song. The Vexa watched. They were confused. This was not in the simulations. The simulations said the humans would be afraid. These humans were not afraid. They were angry. They were hopeful. They were creative. The Vexa ran new simulations. They added the poem as a variable. The machines worked for hours. The results came back the same. Humans would lose. The poem did not matter. It was just words. But the humans kept creating. They painted murals on the sides of their buildings. Images of hope. Images of resistance. Images of a future without the Vexa. The murals made the humans feel strong. The murals made the Vexa feel confused. This was not in the simulations. Murals were not weapons. Murals could not stop a fleet. But the murals kept appearing. Every night. Every wall. Every surface. The humans would not stop creating. They wrote songs. Songs about freedom. Songs about love. Songs about a small blue planet that would not surrender. The songs spread faster than the Vexa could block them. Soldiers on the fleet heard the songs. They did not understand the words. But they understood the feeling. Hope. The songs made the humans brave. The songs made the Vexa uneasy. This was not in the simulations. Songs were not weapons. Songs could not stop a fleet. But the songs kept playing. Every radio. Every speaker. Every voice. The humans would not stop singing. They told stories. Stories about heroes who stood against impossible odds. Stories about ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Stories about a future where the Vexa were not conquerors but students. The stories made the humans believe. The stories made the Vexa doubt. This was not in the simulations. Stories were not weapons. Stories could not stop a fleet. But the stories kept being told. Every parent to every child. Every friend to every friend. Every human to every human. The humans would not stop telling. The Vexa commander, a being named Vex, watched all of this from his flagship. He was confused. He had conquered 1,000 worlds. He had never seen anything like this. The humans were not fighting. They were creating. And their creations were spreading faster than his fleet could move. Run the simulations again, he ordered. Include everything. The poems, the murals, the songs, the stories, everything. The machines ran for a day. Then 2. Then 3. The results came back. The same as before. Humans would lose. The machines could not see what Vex was seeing. The machines could not feel what Vex was feeling. The machines could not understand that the humans were not trying to win. They were trying to live, to hope, to create. And that, Vex realized, was something the machines could never simulate. He looked at the blue planet below. The humans were still painting, still singing, still telling stories. They did not know if they would win. They did not care. They were creating because that was what they did. That was who they were. Creators. Artists. Dreamers. Vex turned to his first officer. Hold the fleet, he said. Do not attack. I need to think. The first officer was surprised. But the simulations. The simulations are wrong, Vex said. They did not account for this. For them. For humans. For the one thing we have never seen before. Creativity. He stared at the blue planet. Somewhere down there, a child was drawing a picture. A mother was singing a lullaby. A father was telling a story. The Vexer had conquered 1,000 worlds. But they had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that did not fight with weapons. An enemy that fought with ideas. And ideas, Vex realized, were harder to defeat than any army. Because ideas did not die. They spread. They grew. They became real. The Vexer fleet waited. The humans kept creating. And the galaxy held its breath. The simulations had predicted an easy victory. The simulations were wrong. And the Vexer had no idea what would happen next. Neither did the humans. But they were not afraid. They were creators. And creators always find a way. The Vexer fleet hung in the sky above Earth like a dark cloud. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. Weapons that could turn cities to ash. The humans looked up and saw their doom. The Vexer expected fear. The simulations showed fear. Panic. Chaos. Surrender. That was how it always happened. That was how it had happened on 1,000 worlds. The humans did not surrender. Instead, they sent a message. Not a threat. Not a plea. A poem. The Vexer commander, Vex, read the words on his screen. He did not understand them. The poem spoke of hope in darkness. Of light that could not be extinguished. Of a small blue planet that would not kneel. Vex read it twice. 3 times. He still did not understand. What is this? He asked his first officer. The first officer shook his head. It appears to be poetry, sir. Poetry? They are sending us poetry. We have a fleet of warships above their world, and they send us poetry. Yes, sir. Vex stared at the screen. He had conquered 1,000 worlds. He had received many messages. Threats. Pleas. Lies. He had never received a poem. He did not know what to do. He ordered new simulations. The machines ran for hours. The results came back the same. Humans would lose. The poem did not matter. It was just words. But the poem spread. Humans shared it with each other. They posted it on walls. They whispered it in the streets. They painted it on the sides of buildings. The Vexer watched. They were confused. This was not in the simulations. The simulations said the humans would be hiding. These humans were painting. Painting poems on walls. Vex ordered more simulations. The machines ran again. The results were the same. Humans would lose. The paintings did not matter. They were just colors on stone. But the humans did not stop. They sang songs in the streets. Songs about freedom. Songs about love. Songs about a future without the Vexer. The songs were loud. The songs were beautiful. The songs made the humans feel brave. The Vexer soldiers heard the songs through their senses. They did not understand the words. But the melodies made them feel strange. Uneasy. This was not in the simulations. Vex ordered new simulations. The machines ran all night. The results were the same. Humans would lose. The songs did not matter. They were just noise. But the humans kept creating. They told jokes to the Vexer soldiers. Not mean jokes. Kind jokes. Jokes that made the soldiers laugh. The Vexer had never laughed before. They did not know they could. Laughter was not part of their training. Laughter was not in the simulations. But the humans made them laugh anyway. A young Vexer soldier named Kale heard a joke from a human child. The child looked up at the massive alien soldier and said, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" Kale did not know. He had never heard of a chicken. He had never seen a road. But the child explained the joke. And Kale laughed. He laughed so hard that his commander heard him. The commander was not pleased. Laughter was not allowed. Laughter was weakness. But Kale could not stop. The joke had unlocked something inside him. Something he did not know was there. He told the joke to another soldier. That soldier told another. Soon, the whole fleet was telling jokes. The Vexor had never told jokes before. They did not know how. But the humans taught them. The humans taught them to laugh. Vex watched his fleet fall apart. Not from weapons. From jokes. From poems. From songs. From paintings. His soldiers were laughing when they should have been fighting. They were smiling when they should have been conquering. They were human when they should have been Vexor. Run the simulations, Vex said. His voice was tired. The machines ran. The results came back. Humans would lose. The machines could not see what Vex was seeing. The machines could not feel what Vex was feeling. The machines could not understand that the humans were not trying to win. They were trying to connect, to share, to create. And that, Vex realized, was something the machines could never predict. He looked at the blue planet below. The humans were still painting, still singing, still telling jokes. They did not know if they would win. They did not care. They were creating because that was what they did. That was who they were. Vex turned to his first officer. Hold the fleet, he said. Do not attack. I need to think. The first officer was confused. But the simulations. The simulations are wrong, Vex said. They did not account for this. For them. For humans. For the one thing we have never seen before. Creativity. We can simulate every battle. Every weapon. Every strategy. But we cannot simulate a poem. We cannot simulate a song. We cannot simulate a joke. These things are not logical. They are not predictable. They are human. He stared at the blue planet. Somewhere down there, a child was drawing a picture. A mother was singing a lullaby. A father was telling a joke. The Vexor had conquered 1,000 worlds. But they had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that did not fight with weapons. An enemy that fought with ideas. And ideas, Vex realized, were harder to defeat than any army. Because ideas could not be simulated. They could not be predicted. They could not be stopped. The Vexor fleet waited. The humans kept creating. The simulations ran. The results never changed. Humans would lose. But Vex was no longer sure he believed the simulations. He was no longer sure he believed anything. Except that somewhere down there, a human child was laughing. And that laugh was more powerful than any weapon in his fleet. The Vexor were not stupid. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had faced every kind of enemy. They knew that ideas could be dangerous. So they decided to cut off the flow. They blocked human communications. They shut down the internet. They silenced the radios. They took control of every screen, every speaker, every signal. The humans could no longer share their poems, their songs, their stories. The Vexor thought they had won. They thought the war was over. They were wrong. The humans did not need the internet to be creative. They did not need radios or screens or satellites. They had been creating long before any of those things existed. They would create long after they were gone. The Vexor had cut off the digital flow. But they could not cut off the human heart. The humans wrote on walls. Every surface became a canvas. Buildings, sidewalks, bridges, the undersides of Vexor ships. The humans wrote poems in chalk and paint and charcoal. They wrote messages of hope, of resistance, of love. The words spread faster than the Vexor could erase them. Every morning, the soldiers woke to find new writing on the walls. New ideas, new challenges, new hope. The Vexor tried to stop it. They posted guards. They installed cameras. They threatened punishment. But the humans kept writing. They wrote in the dark. They wrote in secret. They wrote in places the Vexor could not find. The words appeared like flowers after rain. Inevitable. Beautiful. Impossible to stop. The humans whispered in dark rooms. They gathered in basements and attics and abandoned buildings. They spoke in hushed voices. They shared ideas. They made plans. They told stories. The Vexor tried to listen. They had listening devices everywhere. But the humans whispered so softly that the machines could not hear. They spoke in code, in metaphor, in poetry. The Vexor could not understand. They could only guess. And guessing was not enough. The humans passed notes in secret. Small pieces of paper hidden in books. Under rocks. Inside food packages. The notes contained jokes, poems, drawings, words of encouragement. The Vexer intercepted many of them. But not all. And the ones that got through spread like fire. A soldier found a note in his ration pack. It said, "You are not a weapon. You are a person." The soldier had never thought of himself as a person. He had always been a weapon. The note made him think. Thinking was dangerous. A human artist drew a picture. It was simple. A Vexer soldier and a human child sitting together under a tree. The soldier was crying. The child was holding his hand. The drawing was passed from human to human. Eventually, it reached a Vexer soldier. He looked at the picture. He saw himself. He saw a child. He saw something he had never seen before. Kindness. He began to question his orders. Questioning was dangerous. A human child wrote a story. It was about a Vexer general who realized that war was wrong. The general left his fleet and became a gardener. He grew flowers on a dead world. The story spread. It reached a real Vexer general. He read the story. He cried. He had never cried before. He did not know he could. The story made him feel something. Feeling was dangerous. A human musician played a song. She stood in the middle of a destroyed street and played her violin. The song was sad and beautiful. It spoke of loss and hope and the courage to go on. The Vexer soldiers heard the song. They stopped firing. They lowered their weapons. They listened. The song made them remember. Remembering was dangerous. The Vexer commander, Vex, watched all of this from his flagship. He saw his soldiers laughing at jokes, weeping at stories, questioning their orders. He saw his fleet falling apart. Not because of weapons. Because of ideas. "How do we stop this?" he asked his first officer. The first officer shook his head. "I do not know, sir. We have tried everything. Blocking communications. Silencing the radios. Shutting down the internet. But the humans keep creating. They write on walls. They whisper in rooms. They pass notes. We cannot stop them. We cannot contain them. Their ideas are everywhere." Vex looked at the blue planet below. He had conquered 1,000 worlds. He had never lost a battle. But he was losing this one. Not because the humans were stronger. Because they were more creative. And creativity could not be simulated. It could not be predicted. It could not be stopped. He thought about the poem. The first poem. The one that had started everything. He had read it so many times that he had memoized it. The words came back to him now. Hope is the thing that cannot be killed. It hides in the dark and waits for the light. He had not understood those words at first. Now he was beginning to. Hope could not be killed. The Vexer had tried. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had crushed 1,000 hopes. But the human's hope was different. It was not based on strength or power or victory. It was based on creation. On art. On love. On the simple act of making something new. And that kind of hope, Vex realized, was immortal. He turned to his first officer. "Call the fleet," he said. "We are withdrawing." The first officer was shocked. "Withdrawing? But we have not lost. We have not even fought." Vex nodded. "That is exactly why we are losing. We cannot fight this enemy. Their weapons are not on the battlefield. Their weapons are in their hearts. In their minds. In their hands when they paint and sing and write. We cannot defeat creativity. We can only learn from it." The Vexer fleet turned. The dark ships began to leave. The humans watched from below. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They just kept creating. A woman painted a mural of a rising sun. A child sang a song about peace. A man wrote a poem on a wall. The words were simple. "You came to conquer. You left confused. Come back when you are ready to learn." The Vexer fleet disappeared into the stars. The war of ideas was over. The humans had won. Not with weapons. With poems. With songs. With stories. With the simple, unstoppable power of human creativity. The Vexer had simulated every outcome. But they had never simulated a poem. And that, they learned too late, was the only simulation that mattered. The young Vexer scientist was named Kale. She had been born after the war began. She had never seen a human in person. She had only seen their creations. The poems on the walls. The songs in the air. The stories that had made her people weep. She had studied the data from the fleet. She had read the reports. She had watched the recordings. And she was confused. The humans should have lost. Every simulation said so. The machines had predicted their defeat with absolute certainty. But the humans had not lost. They had not even fought. They had just created. And their creations had brought the Vexer fleet to a halt. Kale decided to study human creativity. Not as a weapon. As a mystery. She watched hours of human art. Paintings from ancient caves. Sculptures from forgotten empires. Drawings from children who had never known war. She listened to human music. Songs of joy. Songs of grief. Songs of love. Songs of hope. She read human literature. Poems that made her heart ache. Stories that made her cry. Words that made her think. She did not understand any of it at first. The Vexa did not create. They calculated. They simulated. They predicted. They had never painted a picture just because it was beautiful. They had never sung a song just because it made them feel. They had never told a story just because it needed to be told. Creation was foreign to them. It was strange. It was uncomfortable. It was human. Kale watched a recording of a human woman painting a mural. The woman was old. Her hands shook. Her face was wrinkled. But she painted with joy. She painted a field of flowers under a blue sky. She painted children playing. She painted a sun that seemed to shine. Kale did not understand why. The mural would not stop a war. It would not feed the hungry. It would not heal the sick. It was just paint on a wall. But the woman painted anyway. She painted because she had to. Because the image was inside her and needed to get out. Because creating was as natural to her as breathing. Kale watched the woman finish the mural. The woman stepped back. She looked at her work. She smiled. And Kale felt something she had never felt before. Wonder. She ran new simulations. This time, she included human creativity as a variable. She fed the machines everything she had learned. The art. The music. The literature. The murals. The songs. The stories. The machines ran for days. They processed trillions of calculations. They tried to find a pattern. A logic. A prediction. They found nothing. The simulations crashed. Every single one. The machines could not handle human creativity. It was too wild. Too unpredictable. Too alive. Kale stared at the error messages. She had never seen the machines fail. They had never failed before. They had simulated everything. Every battle. Every economy. Every future. But they could not simulate a human painting a flower. They could not simulate a human singing a lullaby. They could not simulate a human telling a joke. Kale understood. Human creativity was not predictable. It was not logical. It was not a variable that could be calculated. It was something new. Something wild. Something beautiful. It could not be simulated because it had no limits. It could go anywhere. Do anything. Become anything. That was its power. That was its terror. She went to the Vexa Council. The council was made up of the oldest and wisest Vexa. They had been alive for thousands of years. They had seen everything. Or so they thought. Kale stood before them. She was young. She was afraid. But she spoke clearly. We cannot win, she said. Because we cannot predict what they will do next. And neither can they. That is their strength. They do not know what they will create tomorrow. But they know it will be something wonderful. The council was silent. Then the oldest council member spoke. What do you mean, they do not know what they will create? How can you create something you do not know? Kale shook her head. That is what makes them human. They do not plan their creations. They do not calculate them. They simply make them. A painter does not know what the painting will look like until it is finished. A musician does not know what the song will sound like until it is played. A writer does not know what the story will say until it is written. The creation is a discovery, for the creator as much as for the audience. The council was confused. They had never created anything. They did not understand. Kale continued. The humans do not create to win. They do not create to conquer. They do not create to defeat. They create to express, to connect, to hope. A poem is not a weapon, but it can make a soldier question. A song is not a shield, but it can make a fleet stop. A story is not a bomb, but it can change a heart. That is their power. Not strength, not speed, not intelligence, creativity. The council was silent for a long time. Then the oldest member spoke again. What do you recommend? Kale took a breath. Stop fighting them. Start learning from them. Send ambassadors. Ask them to teach us, to show us how to create. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have won 1,000 battles. But we have never created anything. We have never painted a flower. We have never sung a song. We have never told a story. We are poor. We are empty. We are nothing. The humans are rich. They are full. They are everything. Let us learn from them. Let us become like them. Let us create. The council did not decide that day. They needed time. Time to think. Time to argue. Time to change. But Kale had planted a seed of curiosity, a seed of wonder, a seed of hope, the same kind of seed that grew in human hearts every day, the kind of seed that became poems and songs and stories, the kind of seed that had stopped the Vexor fleet, the kind of seed that might, one day, save them all. Kale left the council chamber. She walked outside. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a small blue planet, a human was painting a flower, singing a song, telling a story, creating something new, something wonderful, something that had never existed before. And Kale smiled. For the first time in her life, she smiled. Not because she had won, because she had learned. And learning, she realized, was the first step toward creating. And creating was the first step toward becoming human. The Vexor fleet withdrew. Not because they were defeated. They had not lost a single ship. Not a single soldier had died. The humans had not fired a single weapon. And yet, the Vexor were leaving. They were confused. They had never encountered a species they could not predict. They had never faced an enemy that did not fight. They had never seen a war won with poems and songs and stories. They did not understand what had happened. They only knew that they could not stay. The Vexor Council met to discuss the withdrawal. The oldest council member, a being named Voth, spoke first. "We have never lost," he said. "But we have not won. What do we do now?" The young scientist Kale stood up. She had been studying humans for months. She had watched their art, their music, their literature. She had learned more than any Vexor before her. She smiled. It was a small smile. A human smile. She had learned that too. "Stop fighting them," she said. "Start learning from them." The council was silent. Then Voth spoke again. "Learn what? They are primitive, weak, divided. What can they teach us?" Kale walked to the center of the chamber. She looked at the oldest and wisest beings in the Vexor Empire. She was not afraid. The humans had taught her not to be afraid. "They can teach us to create," she said. "We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have built the greatest machines in the galaxy. We have simulated every possible future. But we have never created anything. We have never painted a picture just because it was beautiful. We have never sung a song just because it made us feel. We have never told a story just because it needed to be told. We are poor. We are empty. We are nothing. The humans are rich. They are full. They are everything. Let us learn from them. Let us become like them. Let us create." The council argued for days. Some were afraid. Some were curious. Some were confused. But in the end, they agreed. They would send ambassadors to Earth. Not to conquer. To study. They would ask the humans to teach them. They would learn to create. The human response was immediate. "Yes," they said. "Come. We will teach you. We will show you how to paint. How to sing. How to write poetry. We will show you how to be human." The first Vexor ambassadors arrived on Earth a month later. They were nervous. They had never been to a world they did not intend to conquer. They did not know what to expect. They found humans waiting for them. Not soldiers. Not generals. Artists. Musicians. Poets. Teachers. They welcomed the Vexor with open arms. "Welcome," said a human woman named Myra. She was a painter. Her hands were stained with color. Her eyes were bright. "We have so much to show you." The Vexor learned to paint. They started with simple shapes. Circles. Squares. Lines. Their first paintings were stiff. Awkward. Lifeless. The humans encouraged them. "Try again," they said. "Do not think. Just feel." The Vexor tried again. Their paintings grew softer. Warmer. More alive. One Vexor painted a flower. It was not perfect. The colors were wrong. The shape was strange. But it was beautiful. The Vexor looked at his painting. He felt something he had never felt before. Joy. The Vexor learned to sing. They started with simple notes. Loud. Flat. Mechanical. The humans sang with them. "Softer," they said. "Listen to your heart." The Vexor listened. They found a rhythm. A melody. A song. One Vexor sang a lullaby. Her voice was rough. Untrained. But it was full of love. The other Vexor listened. They felt something they had never felt before. Peace. The Vexor learned to write poetry. They started with simple words. "The sky is blue." The ground is hard. The humans read their poems. Deeper, they said. Tell us how you feel. The Vexer wrote again. The sky is the color of my longing. The ground is the weight of my past. One Vexer wrote a poem about hope. The words were simple, but they were true. The other Vexer read the poem. They felt something they had never felt before. Wonder. The galaxy changed. War faded. The Vexer, who had once conquered worlds, now created art. They painted murals on the sides of their ships. They sang songs in their council chambers. They wrote poems about the stars. Other species watched. They were confused at first. Then they were curious. Then they joined. The galaxy became a place of creation, not destruction. A place of art, not war. A place of hope, not fear. The story ends with a Vexer child. Her name is Vexer. She is young. She has never known war. She has only known creation. She sits at a small table with a piece of paper and a box of colors. She holds a crayon in her hand. She thinks for a moment. Then she draws. She draws a flower. It is not perfect. The colors are wrong. The shape is strange. But it is beautiful. She looks at her drawing. She smiles. Her mother, a Vexer who learned to paint from humans, watches her. She smiles too. What will you draw next? Her mother asks. Vexer thinks. She does not know. That is the joy of creation. You never know what you will make until you make it. You never know what you will become until you become it. Something wonderful, Vexer says. Something new. Something human. She picks up another crayon. She begins to draw. The future is blank. The page is white. The possibilities are endless. And somewhere, on a small blue planet, a human is painting a flower too. The same flower. Different colors. Different shapes. Both beautiful. Both human. Both free. The Vexer had simulated every outcome. Trillions of simulations. Not one predicted this. Not one predicted a Vexer child drawing a flower. Not one predicted peace. Not one predicted joy. Not one predicted love. But the humans had. The humans had always known. Because the humans had created it. Not with machines. With hearts. With hands. With hope. And that, the galaxy learned, was the most powerful force in the universe. Creation. And humans had mastered it better than anyone.